Add Google Search Console to your essential everyday SEO toolkit with Olga Zarr from SEOSLY. Brought to you by Majestic, I'm David Bain, and this is SEO in 2022. Olga, what is your number one SEO tip for 2022?
So my number one tip is to use Google Search Console and to add it to your daily SEO toolkit that you always use, that you always rely on, and always start any SEO analysis from this tool, from Google Search Console.
So what are the key metrics? So what specifically should SEOs be looking for in Google Search Console?
So what I suggest is always whenever you, for example, land a new client or whenever you start the analysis of any new site, the first thing you should ask your potential client is to give you the access to Google Search Console so that you can go through all of the reports. The reports you can start with are, for instance, the coverage report, which will instantly tell you what pages exactly are indexed by Google. You can take a look at all of them and instantly say, for instance, if these are really the pages that should be indexed, or maybe these are some thin pages, like pages with single testimonials, for instance, which are part of something bigger and they shouldn't be indexed. So you can simply take a look at that and instantly have some useful piece of information for your client. The same with, for instance, excluded pages. You can take a look at the excluded pages and see if there are pages within the discovered, currently not indexed bucket. And if there are a lot of good content according to your client there, then you may, for instance, say that maybe this site has a quality issue. So you can start from that and then go to other reports that are there, like, for instance, performance reports, to analyze the content side of things.
Okay, so let's come back to the performance report, but going back to the coverage report, talking about pages that should be indexed and shouldn't be indexed, what are some examples of pages that tend to be indexed that shouldn't be indexed?
So, for instance, I have recently had a client who had like almost 1,000 URLs indexed, but in fact, the real pages that really had some useful content, there were like 100 of them. And then when I looked there, I for instance noticed that comments, testimonials added by clients are in the form of a separate web page, and they are all indexed, even though they shouldn't be all indexed, because those testimonials, one by one, are on one specific web page only devoted to testimonials. So this is one example.
Okay, so the way the CMS was set up, it was generating separate pages that it shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Everything should be on a single page. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you mentioned performance report there as well. What are some typical issues that are picked up by that?
So with the performance report lets you quickly kind of see how the site is doing in terms of visibility, the keywords for which the site is visible. If you, for instance, use the tool Keywords Everywhere, if you have it installed in Chrome, then you can, along together with taking a look at performance report, you will see for instance, the traffic estimates for the volume estimates for a given keyword that you see in GSC, right in GSC. So you can instantly see, for instance, the keywords that the site is ranking for, whether they have high potential regarding traffic or not. One thing you can do with performance report using the filters that are available there, you can, for instance, take a look at the pages that rank on the second page of Google. And for instance, usually those keywords, those pages will be quick wins for you. And if you work on those pages, enrich the content there, maybe add some content on around those topics, those keywords, maybe those pages stand a chance of going to the first page of Google.
Okay, great. That's a lovely tip there, because I think many SEOs will be thinking that keyword data isn't available to them in Google tools anymore, certainly with the experience that they've had with Google Analytics, but a lot of that exists in Search Console.
Yeah, everything is there for you to you just need to take a half an hour, and just dive deep in and see what's there. It's really a ton of useful data right there from Google, straight from Google, delivered to you.
And you and you think this should be something that SEOs should be doing every single day?
So definitely they should log into Google Search Console every day. And once you log into Google Search Console, you see the overview. And if anything kind of bad happens, for instance, your site gets penalized, you will see that in the overview. So that's one thing I think everyone should do. And in the overview, you will instantly see any spikes, any drops. So if you go there, you will see more or less is something changed dramatically.
And can you map those spikes against historical trends as well to get a feel for whether or not that's normal to spike and to trough like that?
You can open the performance report and set the date to be like the date range to be like the last, for instance, 12 months, and you can compare what was happening until that day and what happened today. So you can have the whole picture, whether this spike, maybe it was a spike or a drop because it is the weekend, or maybe it is a spike that has never happened before over the last 12 months. So yeah, you can. That's what I would suggest. There are also a lot of ways to compare data in GSC, so that's one thing you can do as well, and see what's happening.
Can you go back longer than 12 months as well? So if you want to compare the same time to the same time last year, is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can go 16 months into the past. So yeah, you can definitely do that. You can, for instance, compare the mobile traffic to the desktop traffic. You can compare the image traffic to the web traffic, or you can compare traffic from different countries. So you can really take a very deep and detailed look at people coming through Google to your site and how they're using the site, whether they found you through images or from Google Discover, because there is also the Google Discover report and Google News report, which will appear once your site is getting meaningful traffic from those sources as well.
A couple of people have actually talked about optimizing image search as part of this project as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned traffic from image search as well. So is this something that you're seeing that's increasing at the moment? And what percentage on average of overall traffic does this generally account for?
So the sites that I have been recently, for instance, auditing, or even my own site, generally the image traffic is really a very small percentage of what the site is really getting overall. I would say the image traffic may be a little bit higher in the case of e-commerce sites when people are looking for a specific product name, and they usually go to Google Image to see what this product look like. So I would say that image optimization may be a little bit more important for e-commerce sites that have a lot of products and have images of those products. So in that case, I think that percentage will be higher.
Okay, great. And going back to the data available from Google Search Console, so if an SEO struggles maybe to log in every day, is it possible to set up some top-level reports that they will receive on a daily basis just to highlight whether or not there is an issue to be concerned about? So
there are a lot of tools that integrate with Google Search Console and that can send you those automated reports. For instance, one recent tool that I have also started using is SEO Crawl, which once you integrate integrated with GSC, you can receive alerts every day about your visibility, stuff like that. So you can definitely do it this way if you wish.
Okay, great. And you also recommend starting any SEO analysis from the data in Google Search Console. So it's not just about checking things on a daily basis just to make sure there aren't any issues. It's about actually using that tool as probably the number one tool in your arsenal to start some kind of analysis with. So why is that your starting point?
So because usually, for instance, if you are doing an SEO audit, you kind of start the crawl, and the crawler will tell you what pages are indexable. The crawler may render JavaScript and tell you, for instance, if there are some differences and stuff like that. It will tell you if there is HTTPS problem, for instance, or the speed of the site. And basically all of that data you can already find in Google Search Console. That's why I always recommend you check those. And once you start using those other more advanced tools like Screaming Frog or Sitebulb, you already more or less know what's going on. For instance, in GSC, you have the page experience report, you have the Core Web Vitals report. Once you go there, you will immediately see, assuming that the site has enough traffic, you will immediately see, for instance, the Core Web Vitals metrics, the field data, the field metrics for those for Core Web Vitals there. You can identify the groups of pages that have a specific issue, for instance, like a CLS issue or FID issue. So once you kind of know what's going on there, you will be able to analyze what the crawler is telling you with a more precision, and you will be able to kind of draw the right conclusions after your audit. What actually this site needs to do, and what you see in GSC is the information, the things that Google wants draw your attention to. So in most cases, you will want to prioritize what you already see in GSC over what other tools are telling you.
Okay, so in general, does that mean that the data in GSC is more accurate?
Yes, I would say yes, definitely.
So what's missing in Google Search Console? What do you absolutely have to use other tools for?
So, for instance, Google Search Console gives you samples. For instance, if you have a very large site, it will only show you the sample of 1,000 URLs that have a specific issue, like, for instance, Core Web Vitals issue, like FID is too long. So, or CLS or whatever. So you have the sample and you can more or less know what's going on. But sometimes, in most cases, you want to crawl the entire site and have the list of all of the URLs and be able to kind of, for instance, match the actions that need to be done to all of the URLs, not only the ones that Google kind of showed you as a sample.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm sure there are many SEOs listening to you thinking, I only go into Google Search Console on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. So they're maybe thinking, okay, I need to spend more time in there, but they're struggling for time themselves. So what's something that they might be doing at the moment that is probably not a great use of their time? They need to be thinking about stopping doing now to spend more time in Google Search Console. So
what I noticed, a lot of especially newer SEOs are kind of obsessing about the notifications that other SEO tools are sending them, and those tools, crawling tools, usually mark very many things as critical issues, even though they're not. Like, for instance, there's an issue of HTML ratio. Some tools will tell you that the HTML ratio of your site is very bad. You need to change that, and a new SEO may be thinking that there's a serious issue with my site, I don't know what to do. While in fact, many of those alerts are kind of created. There is simply a list of alerts that this tool is checking for, but the fact that this tool is sending you this alert does not mean that your site actually has that issue. That's why instead of kind of panicking over those what those other tools are sending you, what may be a potential issue, you should dive deep into GSC and see what actually Google is telling you, because it's telling you very, very loudly and very precisely what's wrong, what you can fix, what errors there are, and stuff like that. Google has a very detailed guide on how to use and how to read GSC reports, and if you spend like an hour or two on that guide, you will really see how much you can get from GSC, even regarding links data. Everything, basically every aspect of SEO, like rendering. You can use the URL inspection tool and see how Google actually sees your site. You can compare the rendered HTML with the source HTML and see how Google sees your site.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, you can find Olga Zarr over at SEOSLY.com. Olga, thanks for being part of SEO in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. That was a real pleasure.
Check out the rest of the content from SEO in 2022 over at SEOin2022.com.